This is Miss Nicole, and for those of you that missed the first day of the portfolio workshop, I'm going ahead and recording this presentation so that way you'll know everything that you missed. So whenever you come to one of our workshops, the first one, you only needed pencils, pens, scrap paper, folders, binder or a box to store your 4-H stuff, and a calendar. From here on out, you will need a Chromebook for these days of presentations. Or not the days of presentations, but the portfolio workshops. The first thing that you need to do is you need to select your 4-H project. So all 4-H members should always be working on their citizenship and leadership skills. But you have to have at least one other project other than citizenship and leadership to compete in. So what we're going to do, if you are at home and you're watching this video, I sent out a link for those of you that have signed up so far on participating in a 4-H project. And you're supposed to pick your project, and a lot of the projects, they have already updated the outcomes. So they have very clear outcomes and things that they expect you to do when you're in this 4-H project, whether it's your first year, your second year, your third year, whatever it is. They have different sets of standards in each of the projects. Some of them are old sheets, and so it looks like an activity sheet. Like for example, the dairy one has has information about the breeds of cows, and it has information about what you use cows for, and so it's not set up as neatly as newer ones such as citizenship and leadership. So you'll have to kind of come up with your own outcomes based on the activity sheet. But if you go to the 4-H website and you go to the projects page, you'll click on your project, and then there'll either be outcomes or an activity sheet or information on your project, and you're going to have to figure out what kind of things that you'll be doing this year in your project. In the 4-H portfolio, we require you to set goals. So your goals for this year are going to be until December. So if you're working on this right now, you need to start setting yourself some big goals to complete before December. This is all about self-management. You really need to learn how to keep a calendar to be successful in managing your project work. It is not about me telling you what to do. I will never call you and remind you for these meetings. I might email you, but it is your responsibility to keep track of your work and your project and to come to meetings prepared. I cannot emphasize that enough. The project is about you. It is not about my work with you. There'll be 3 sections for you to set goals in. Your main project. The second one is section B, and it's improving your leadership goals. And then C is working on your citizenship goals. Hi, today I would like to talk to you about project goals. And we're going to talk about the 4-H projects that you've chosen and how to write some very meaningful goals. We have 3 main objectives in this training module. You're going to learn how to write meaningful project goals. You're going to understand how project plans fit with your portfolio, and then you're going to be able to identify what we look for and what our preferences are when you're writing your goal. There are a few basic steps when writing your 4-H goals and your plans for the year. First, project plans should be written at the beginning of each school year. This is not something that should be written before you turn in your project portfolio, although we know the majority of folks do it in this way based on how they are written. You know, right now we're starting in the middle of the school year, so your goals are going to go from now until December, and that's okay. So we're just trying to get you to start somewhere, and a lot of us think in terms of our 4-H years from August to May. However, a 4-H year is really January to December. So that's why usually you're supposed to start your project goals in January. But several kids in our county wanted to compete next year to go to things like academic conference, roundup, 4-H congress, and everything. So I wanted to start you off now, even though maybe it won't be as competitive as some of the other kids, but you'll at least have a starting point to work off. Project plans are very important to ensuring your success. They help you to create a focus for what it is you really want to accomplish and learn in your project. You have to plan to reach your goal. Think about this in terms of something that you love to do. So plan at the beginning. Let's think about this in terms of basketball. You don't just wake up one day and say, hey, I'm trying out for the basketball team today. No, you have to set a goal to do and then build some skills. To get that skill, you have to practice. You have to make a plan as to how you want to master the skills needed to be the best basketball player you could be so that you can make the team. Maybe you decide to practice 30 minutes each day, and maybe that practice includes shooting 50 free throws. It's a simple plan like this that with a little dedication to sticking to it can help you improve your skills. Or in terms of a portfolio, it can help you master the subject matter knowledge of your respective project in your quest to become a state winner. Our next step is to improve versus to achieve. Second, the goal you set does not have to be focused on finishing, winning, or being selected or elected to do something. You have no control of the outcomes of any goals like this. If you set a detailed goal, for example, of not just shooting, but making 50 of the 50 baskets you shoot during the free throw practice, you are going to be disappointed and frustrated. Some of the skills and talents that we are learning through our project work will take a lifetime to master. Just as in basketball, I don't think that Kobe Bryant could make all 50 of his attempts at 50 free throws every single day. Although, for him, he'd probably be close. Instead of setting such lofty and unattainable goals, your goals should simply show improvement from one year to the next on a particular skill set. So, for example, if you are wanting to set a goal of improving your free throw ability for basketball, you might consider making a goal to improve on where you are now. If you only take on average on average about 10 of the 50 free throw attempts each day, then set a goal to make 20 the next year. The next year, set a goal to make 30 out of 40 and so forth. This not only helps you improve your skill set, but it shows the judges consistency and a stream of continuous skill growth. We will talk more about goal setting in a moment. Again, I want to emphasize that winning and or being elected is not an appropriate goal. When you set your goals, they should be for something that you can control. Do not set a goal to win a showmanship at a livestock event or to be elected 4-H Congress governor. It's not that these are bad goals, but the outcomes are dependent on others, not just you. Despite your best efforts and all your practice, whether or not you win showmanship is dependent on what the judges think. Despite your best campaigning efforts, your social media campaign, your banners, your posters, your slogans, all of those things they might not make you become governor at 4-H Congress, and it just depends on how your fellow delegates vote. Your best efforts will improve your odds, no doubt, but they cannot guarantee you anything. If we go back and once again look at the free throw goal, whether or not you reach your goal of making 20 free throw baskets out of 50 attempts every day that you practice is solely dependent upon you, not your coach, your teammates, referees, or parents. Think about that. The last thing I want to mention when you're doing your goals is that we look for continuity. Make sure that your goals show a streamline of learning, that you're slowly getting better and better and you're not jumping from subject matter to subject matter. It's fine to have more than one goal, but all of your goals that you set should match your project area, and the judges should be able to look at your goals from one year to the next and clearly see that you're taking on more and more difficult subject matter and that you're continuing to grow and improve as a person. So let's talk about SMART goals. So when you're using SMART goals, it'll help you as you write your project plans. There's some 5 steps to doing SMART goals. The first section is S for specific. When writing your goals, you want to be as specific as possible in identifying exactly what you wish to accomplish. The more specific your goal can be, the better. It makes it easier to set parameters and work towards your goal. Keep your goals simple. Use clear language, complete sentences are the best. Think about who is being involved, what you want to accomplish, why you're doing this, for what reason, purpose, what constraints or requirements you have before you write down your goal. Throughout this presentation, I'm going to be using examples in a 4-H project that doesn't exist. It's called the 4-H Home Improvement Project. I'm doing this in order to show non-bias towards any other project and not give you an unfair advantage. So on the slide, there are 2 examples. Which one is the more specific example? Okay, I think I gave you enough time to read out those 2 goals. So if you're guessing example 2, you are correct. Good job at understanding what a good specific project goal is. Understanding the color wheel is much more specific, and if you're wanting to learn more about interior design, this is one important step to do. So when you're using SMART goals, the next step is the M. You want to make sure your goals are measurable. So if your goal is measurable, we'll be able to look at, you'll be easily able to achieve it. The only way to know that you're going to, the only way that you're going to grow is if you know that there's a quantifiable way of measuring and tracking your progress. This makes it an easy benchmark performance throughout the goal period, including areas to improve. How much, how many, how will you know that your goal is accomplished? That's what you're thinking of. There are a lot of different units you can use to measure your goals. Think about your basketball example. The goal was measured by using the number of free throws made. You may use days, hours, number of times, and the list goes on and on. In the case of your current goal of learning the color wheel, I am measuring my progress towards reaching my goal by the number of workshops that I successfully complete. Again, please note that it is So now we're looking on the letter A. So we have specific, measurable, and then A is achievable or attainable. And is our goal reasonable enough to accomplish? Look at the 2 examples. Which one is more attainable? If you identified example 2 as the more attainable goal, then you are correct. 2 workshops is something that is totally attainable. 15 hours of coursework is what a college student takes throughout an entire semester. There's no way with a middle school or high school schedule and extracurricular activities and everything else that you could do both a full load of college work and a full load of 4-H work and a full load of high school work. I want to point out something else about this part of the goal. Often these goals may act like stepping stones to help meet broader goals. So now we're going to look at the letter R. We have specific, measurable, achievable, or attainable, and then the R is realistic or relevant. It is important to create goals that are within our current skill set or area of expertise and that the goal matches our project. Remember our basketball example. It would have been unrealistic to set a goal of 50 out of 50 free throws when your current skill level is only on average of 10 to 50. Building expertise and skill takes time, so expecting to become an expert or a skill master in a short amount of time is unrealistic. Being realistic will make it easy to be successful at attaining goals. You should never make an assumption that the person who is reading your goals is an expert. Spell it out. Make it part of your goal to detail why the goal is relevant to your overall goal. Again, let's go back to basketball. I need to increase my skill in making free throws in order to become a better basketball player. Let's look at the example. I want to learn about the color wheel so that I can use this knowledge as a building block to learn about other fabrics. The color wheel is a stepping stone in my goal to learn about interior design. Throughout my research on learning about interior design, I learned that there are some basics that every decorator needs to understand. One of those basics includes learning about color. There are other basics such as fabrics, design styles, furniture styles, lighting. Next year, when you work on your goals, I'll continue to build on this knowledge, and I may add one of these other basics of interior decorating in so that I can show the judges that I'm working to expand my knowledge and understand the interior decorating industry. I'm widening my size of subject matter and knowledgeable by adding new goals and topics, and yet continuing to increase my scope of knowledge about color or delivering even further into the subject area. For the purpose of the 4-H project portfolio, it is important that your goal is not out of reach or below standard of performance. One of the most important things that you can do in regard to relevance is to ensure your goal fits your project area. It seems simple, but you might be surprised. Many times I see project goals for leadership that are written more for citizenship. Let me give you an example of a goal. I want to learn more about leadership by helping as many 4-Hers as I can. That's admirable, but it's kind of crazy. Is this more leadership or citizenship? The 4-Her has identified this as leadership, but the 4-H member wants to help 4-Hers. Be careful. There are other words that can be used. Teach, for example, would be a word to use and more indicative of leadership work than help. Help indicates citizenship type activities. Now, we said specific, measurable, achievable, or attainable, realistic, and the last one is T for time. So, in regards to time, your goal should include a time limit. For most of us in the 4-H world, it makes sense to the time limit being the end of the year, as that's when 4-H portfolios begin to be judged. Time may be measured as the case in this example by length of the workshops. Be sure that even though it is understood, you practice the habit of writing good goals and include your time commitment, just as I have done here. Writing goals is a life skill that you will use over and over again. Not only does this act of including a timestamp on your goals encourage good practice of this goal writing skill, it also helps to establish a sense of urgency and prompt you to have a better time. Again, this is a summary of your goal theory. If you need to pause the video at this time to take notes, please do so right now. Remember, specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, or realistic, and then time-bound. So what I need you to do before you continue watching this video or after you take your notes is to begin writing your goals and email me your goals. You all should know my email, but we have 2 emails for the Overton County 4-H program. nmarrero@utk.edu and nmarrero@overtoncountyschools.net. It's N for Nicole, M for Maple, A for Apple, R for regular, E for elephant, R for regular, and O for octopus. nmarrero@utk.edu or nmarrero@overtoncountyschools.net. So remember, continue working on your project goals. So remember your goal theory and just make sure you jot down any notes and that you send me your goals right now. Hey. No, I didn't. Okay. Sometimes flow charts help me think. So I wanted to help you remember using your SMART goals and how you can begin to think about your 4-H project. So beginning in the home environment project is just like with other project areas. It can afford me the opportunity to focus my learning, concentration in a number of areas that have to do with the environment of the home. Most of y'all love 4-H because you can set your own goals on what you work towards. And then the portfolios are just a fancy way of putting it out there. Some people are going to want to focus more on maybe home safety, for example, in the home environment project. And there's several people that work on this video. Lori Gallimore is the one that put it together. And then these each are different 4-H agents that continue to help with portfolios. If you're a 4-H parent and you have questions about this, you need to contact me. The sooner you start contacting me with your questions, the easier I can help you and the sooner I can get back to you so you can continue to work. So just a summary again, if you're restarting this video, we talked about the goals, do's, and don'ts. These are my county goals, do's, and don'ts for you. Have at least 3 goals in your overall portfolio, 1 for each of the project areas. Have SMART goals. Increase your difficulty of goals based on your age and how long you've been in the project. Make all goals something you can control. Never write less than 3 goals. Never write your goals in December. Don't change the flow of your goals. And don't make your goals dependent on other people's success and opinions. So I know I've already allowed you to work on your goals, but if you're restarting this video because you got more information from me, I wanted to make sure I gave you time to practice writing your goals. So let's talk about making. So this is an example of how our current 4-H portfolio records look. This is something that you might find in like section C. That's the citizenship section. And there's a section that says friends, family, and community in the portfolios. There are 2 variant parts of writing for impact. The first is to combine similar information into one statement. The second part is to include as many numbers as possible. If you note the slide, not every record has a number or amount of times a job is performed. We may not use each and every number in reporting, but it gives us options. If you can use more than 1 unit, you might think about measuring in whatever is going to create the largest number. The numbers really matter when you're doing this. So, for example, the first one, mowed my grandmother's lawn. How many weeks? How many weeks did you weed eat at your church's cemetery? This one's very clear. It says 16 times they mowed the lawn for their neighbor when they broke their foot. If you wanted to make this look bigger, what would you do? You could do how many hours that it took you to mow. Mowed and weeded for your dad 15 times. That's still good. You could also do it by hours. How many petunias did you plant? What unit do you use? Times, number of hedges, length. How many times did you weed eat the flower beds? You replace 3 shrubs in the church flower bed. 3 shrubs is measurable. You could also put how many hours it took you to do that, or how much money it cost you if you spent money on those shrubs. You could have put how many times you bush hogged the empty lot. The size of the lot is another way to measure it. So numbers are really important, as I said. And so now that we have the measurement units in place, let's create one impact statement that summarizes. Think about it. You can combine all the mode statements. You can also talk about planting and the number of plants is another way to measure it. Your list may look something like this once all the information has been accounted for and it's sorted and written for impact. It is more much more impactful to see numbers like 63 and 40 in the statement than to see a bunch of numbers that are small. And as a side note, look at how each sentence for size and scope began with an action verb. This is very important on your resumes and in your portfolios. It makes it look a lot more professional. You can find a complete list of action verbs just by doing Google searches. When you're writing your notes over what you do each day, it doesn't necessarily have to have all the itty bitty details, and you don't have to keep condensing. But at the end of the day, what we'll do is we'll look at all of your notes for everything and then determine what are the best. On this slide, you might see a listing of activities that you'd find in a 4-H Performing Arts and Recreation portfolio. Take a few moments, pause the video, and create a clear, concise impact statement that include all. So that was everything you needed to know for making a statement. We're going to talk about photos. All your photos should clearly tell a story. It should be easy to see who is in the photo. In this photo, we have a 4-H member who is standing right here. It's pretty clear. She picked a photo where no one was looking, everybody was looking away or at her, and she was the only one you could see speaking. Next to it, you're going to wind up seeing a story that tells you a little bit about what the girl is doing. So your photo should be clear and tell a little bit of a story, and then the writing should really bring it to life. This one is a blurry one, but this one would be someone that was actually in the consumer education project. And she has about how it's a buyer registration. There's one bad thing about this photo. It's that she's staged the photo set. So she could have seen a photo where she was actually handing someone something or counting money within it. It would have been a better picture. This one photo is okay, but again, it's staged. She is winning an award, so that's all right when you look at it. It might have been better if she had put the money in her hand as well. Again, these are some great examples of action photos. Things where they're actually doing something that goes towards their project. Your photos are going to wind up being separated by each of the projects: citizenship, leadership, and then your main project. I'm just showing you some of the photos so you can get some ideas of how to document your work. So after you examined all those photos by yourselves, remember, all photos should clearly tell a story. It should always be easy to tell who is in the photo. So your take-home photo points is no photos should be staged, all action-oriented photos. No photos will be printed. They're all going to be on the online website. Photos should showcase your completion of goals. So your homework is, if you attended the workshop or you're watching this video and you began your goal writing, you need to make sure you finish writing your goals, and as soon as they're done, to email them to me at nmarrero@utk.edu, nmarrero@utk.edu, or nmarrero@oaklandcountyschools.net. So both those emails are on the screen, so if you have to pause it and write it down, you can. The other thing you need to do is start working towards those goals and then making sure you write them down on a calendar. Take at least one photo of you working on each of the following goals and email them to Miss Nicole: your main project, your citizenship project, and your leadership project.